Hi everyone, Lizanne here. So this month's blind spot is something I come across surprisingly often in financial planning practices, and that is governance without documentation. Now, before your eyes glaze over at the word governance, let me assure you that I'm not talking about thick policy manuals gathering dust on a shelf. I'm talking about something much simpler, the way your business actually works. Who makes decisions? Who is responsible for what? Who reports to whom? And what happens when things don't go according to plan? Because one of the most common assumptions I see in businesses is that everyone already knows these things. In many firms, governance exists almost entirely through shared understanding. People know who they should speak to. They know who usually approves something. They know who handles a particular issue. And because the same people have often worked together for years, it feels like everything is clear until something changes. Someone resigns, someone goes on maternity leave, a new team member joins, the business grows, or a difficult situation arises that nobody has encountered before. And suddenly everyone realizes that what felt obvious was never really documented. And to be fair, this happens for a very understandable reason. Most financial planning businesses don't start with formal governance structures. They evolve organically. The founder knows what needs to happen, the team learns how things work, and people settle into roles and responsibilities. Over time, those arrangements become part of the culture of the business. The challenge is that culture is not the same thing as documentation. Just because people understand something today doesn't mean they will understand it tomorrow. And it certainly doesn't mean that a new employee will understand it. The risk isn't simply that people become confused. The risk is that accountability becomes blurred. When roles and responsibilities are not clearly documented, people start making assumptions. They assume someone else owns a task. They assume someone else approved a decision. They assume someone else is responsible for following up. And when something eventually goes wrong, those assumptions get exposed very quickly. What follows is usually frustration. People become defensive, and conversations start with things like, I thought that was your responsibility, or I didn't know that was part of my role, or nobody told me I was supposed to do that. At that point, the business isn't dealing with a governance issue anymore, it's dealing with people issues. And those are often much harder to fix. From a compliance perspective, this becomes even more important because regulators don't just want to know that something's happened. They increasingly want to understand who was responsible for making sure it happened. Without documented accountability, that becomes very difficult to demonstrate. So perhaps a useful question to sit with this week is if one of your key people left tomorrow, would somebody else be able to clearly understand their responsibilities from your documentation? Or would they need to rely on what people remember? Good governance isn't about creating more paperwork, it's about creating clarity. Clarity about decisions, clarity about responsibilities, and clarity about accountability. Because businesses operate far more effectively when people don't have to guess how things work. One of the simplest ways to strengthen governance is not to start with a new policy. It's to start by documenting what already exists, the reporting lines, the responsibilities, the decision-making authority. Because what feels obvious today can become tomorrow's confusion remarkably quickly. And if this blind spot resonated with you, it may simply be a sign to take a fresh look at how much of your governance currently lives in people's heads rather than in the business. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you again with the next blind spot.